Hi, I'm Trey, and I'm going to help you get started using blockchain-enabled APIs from api.market. But most important, I'm going to show you what to do to earn valuable OR token bounties. So let's get started by logging in. You can click the login button or let's go. You have an option to choose Google or GitHub. If you choose GitHub, you'll unlock some developer-only bounty options. So use that if you have a GitHub account. And if don't, just use Google. Log in with your GitHub account. And you'll be prompted to authorize the api.market app to talk to your GitHub repository. And we're just looking at your public repos so that you'll be able to publish anything you would like in the future. But we're also using GitHub primarily as a way of verifying that you're a real developer and that you deserve the OR bounties. Go ahead and authorize the app. And now we're going to create a crypto wallet for you. Don't worry, it's really easy to deal with. You just need a password. And I'm going to enter a password. It needs to be a pretty decent password. When you enter something in with special characters and numbers and letters, eventually you'll get the well done. Great. All you need to access that wallet in the future is this password, so don't forget it. Click the Set Password button. And we've created your wallet for you. We've also given you a balance of CPU. CPU are the credits that you need to call an API from the marketplace. So there are a lot of ways to earn bounties on this page. We'll come back to this page in a bit, but the one that you definitely want to look at is this one here. Clicking the join button allows us to use your email address to send you updates on the contest and allows you to submit your contest entries. So please click the join button to get started. Now look for the API that we're going to use for the contest. You can scroll down. You can see there's a lot of APIs that are coming. We'll come back to that. But this is the one we're playing with. Deep Space Bounty Hunters. Go ahead and click on that link. And you'll get a basic overview of the API. Essentially what this API does is you call the API endpoint and you give it a URL that points to an image. It then processes the image using machine learning and returns a result, which is a JSON object. And in that result set, it tells you what objects it thinks it found in the image. And the higher up in the list, the more likely it thinks it found that object. And so in this case, 25.9% sure that it found velvet in this image. Now this model was trained using normal everyday objects, and we're asking it to look at pictures of deep space. So it'll come back with objects that probably are not in space, but that's the fun of the contest. So for our first contest, we're looking for hot dogs in space. So we've put together a bucket of 50 images. You can browse them by clicking on the Browse button. These are the images that the model thinks might have hot dogs in them. You can kind of browse them. Some of them may look like they have hot dogs and some of them don't. Well, the model will see things that you won't. So that's why it's important to use the API to process these images. You can't just go through the list and pick the ones that you think are the highest results. So that's the images to process. You have to pick 25 of the 50 that are in that bucket. You then call this API. So I'll show you how to do that in a minute. The actual images themselves for you to process with the API are stored in this bucket. So if you click on it, you can see the list of each image comes back in this Amazon S3 bucket list, and the key is the name of the image file. So these are the names of the images that you want to process. And the way you do that with the API is you call the API using a URL with the complete path to the image. So this is the complete path to one of the images. It has this on the front, and then it has the image itself that you want to process on the end. So you go look at the browse, find the images that you want, use that image file name, stick it on the end of this URL to have the complete image URL. The complete image URL, and this is an example of a complete image URL right here for that image that we just looked at. This is what you pass into the API as a parameter for it to process that image. Okay, so let's get started. Click on the API button, and you'll see a little bit of a detail section about the APIs. You'll see how much it costs to call the API, and CPU is our credit, so 1 CPU for each call. This is the total number of CPU that you have in your wallet. You can see that right up here. So this means that you can make 30 calls given the balance that's in your wallet. So to get the API so you can use it, you just click the Get It Now button. And it takes a few seconds, and then it shows you that you got your license. What is it doing? Well, it's actually creating a token that is being put in the crypto wallet. As long as you have that token to access the API in your wallet, then you can call that API. It does cost you to call it 1 CPU per call, but you have to have that token in your wallet in order to be able to call the API. So let's call the API. There's a step-by-step here on how to do that. And this is just some example code we're going to run to just show you how it works. So let's actually do this. So the first step is to create a directory. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a directory on my machine called API test. Okay. Then install the api.market client library. This just takes a second. It's an npm package. The next thing we're going to do is create a file called index.js. Probably could have guessed that. So I'm just going to use Nano Editor using a Mac. And then I will copy the sample code, paste it right into the editor, and then save that. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to download our configuration file. And the configuration file has everything in it the client library needs to talk to your wallet, to open your wallet, and to pay for access to the API. So this is what it looks like in your config file. You don't have to look at it, but you do have to do one thing, which is you have to put your password, the one that you use to create your wallet, in the config file. Once you do that, then the client software will be able to use that, unlock your wallet, and pay for access to the API. So let's just download the config file. I'm going to open it up in Finder here. And here's the file. So I'm just going to, it's in my downloads directory, so I'm just going to copy it from my downloads folder. Now if I take a look at my directory, I have all the files that I need. I'm just going to do one more thing, which is I'm going to edit this config file called api.market_config.json to include the wallet password that I used when I created the wallet. So let me go ahead and delete this placeholder text, and I'm going to type in the password that I used to create this wallet, which was 1, 2, 3, 4 secure exclamation mark. And close this wallet. All right, so if I type it out, just to make sure that it looks correct, it has my password in there. That's right. And you can see the files that I've got, the index.js, the config file, and then I installed my node module. So now to run it, all I have to do is, oh, by the way, make sure you have Node installed in your machine. You need to have version 7.0 or higher. So if you don't know how to install Node, you can look in the instructions on the website, and there's a link on how to install it. So now to run the app and access the API and process the image and get a result back, actually, I'm going to show you what it's going to do here. What this code does is something really simple. It just includes the client library. It then sets it up using the config file. This has your wallet password in it. Then it connects to the blockchain. And then it just wants to talk this API. So every API has its own name. and you call it using this function, just go fetch, which just does an HTTP request for that API, and you pass in whatever parameters you want as a JSON object. So in this case, we're passing in image URL as a parameter name, and this is one of the names of the images that is in that bucket. So this will just run this code, call the API, and then print out the response, which should be the JSON object, which lists the things that it found in the image. And notice we're using the async, the ES6 notation for async and await, just to make it a little bit more modern. So now let's run the API by just typing node index.js, hitting the enter key. It will unlock the wallet, go hit the API, and come back with the results. So you can see here, it thinks it found quite a lot in that image. If you scroll all the way to the top, it thinks it found a helix or a whirl or a spiral. It's pretty sure of that, 86.5%. Espresso, less so. You can see these things drop off pretty quickly. And what's the last thing that it found? A hot dog. So it's very low confidence that there's a hot dog in that image. And that image is this one. So it's pretty sure this is a spiral, not so sure it's a hot dog. But now you know how to use the API and get you started. So it should be pretty straightforward now for you to write your own code and take it to the next level. To enter the contest, go back to the description page. This has a brief summary, but you need to refer to the instructions that you got in your email to give you the official rules and how to enter. But as you can see, again, high-level summary, there's a directory with 50 images in it, which you can browse here. Pick 25 of those images, run the API using code similar to what we just showed you, and you'll have to keep that JSON object that comes back and check for, in this case, the hot dog is what you're looking for every result set. Check to see the confidence that the system found a hot dog in that image, and keep track of that image name and the confidence level. What we want is, of all the images that you ran, we want the one that has the highest number for a hot dog. When you get that image, you'll make a submission. And again, refer to your email for the specific rules. Now, before you do that, the good news is that you can earn some bounties right now by just doing a few simple tasks. Go ahead and click on the home page here by clicking on the logo. And if you scroll down here, you can see that this is the API that you've licensed and that you've made a call against it. So this will get updated in real time. So as you use the APIs, it will deduct from your CPU credit and you'll be able to see the balance. If you're a developer, you can take the developer feedback survey. So since you've made your first API call, this option will be enabled. Click the Give Feedback button, provide feedback on your developer experience. Click there to answer just a few questions and give us your honest feedback. And then take the developer survey. These are questions that are designed for us to learn more about you and what you want. We take your feedback very seriously, so take a few minutes to answer these questions. Our goal is to make your life better and give you what you want as a developer. And if you're very thoughtful about your answers, we may give you a huge bonus. There's another way for you to earn a lot of war bounties. Once you've finished walking through your first experience, invite your friends and coworkers who are developers by clicking on the copy button and emailing them this link. Once they sign up with their GitHub account, you will get a sweet reward. One other thing you can do is scroll down here. You can see the upcoming APIs that we're going to include in the marketplace. Feel free to go through and vote for the ones that you think will be useful for you. If you want something, be sure to answer in the survey what you want. Otherwise, if any of these are particularly useful, feel free to go ahead and click on the Up button to give us your feedback. That's it. Now get out there and enter those contests. Those hot dogs are not going to find themselves.